weird? I consume almost no content of other people that do what I do, mostly because I just don't really have the time for it. I watch around one Dr. Blitz YouTube video a week because I know I'm probably gonna learn something I didn't know before or figure out a way to explain something that I kind of understood in a better way by listening to him. And he does get some pretty funny people. Even like the big name stuff, I really don't watch very much of it, apart from Alex O'Connor. I don't watch everything Alex puts out, but I watch quite a bit of it. I watch a lot of Erica's stuff, Guts at Gibbon, because she knows so much, and when she does these deep dives, I know I'm going to learn a lot in there. And I watch Professor Dave's debunking videos. I don't really watch his like coursework style videos very much. I'd really like to. If we could slow down the Earth's rotation by a factor of 2 or 3, then I would have enough time to do those things. But yeah, the other stuff, I don't actually watch a lot of it. I watched probably 5 Apologia videos last year. That's it. I don't watch The Line. I don't watch The Atheist Experience even. That's just me. But I always wonder, to what extent do other channels that are about the same size as mine or channels that are way bigger than mine, to what extent do they watch other people's stuff? It was the craziest thing ever last year, whenever that was, like February, March, when Professor Dave created a post on YouTube and he said, hey, there's this guy named Planet Peterson, and he's sort of a clone of me. You guys should check him out. I was like, what the hell? That's so awesome. Thank you. I was watching an Alex O'Connor video just the other day. He had Rhett back on his show. I haven't watched very much of it yet, but Rhett brings up Apologia's YouTube channel, and Alex goes, oh yeah, that guy's awesome. And I thought that was kind of cool and really interesting. It's like, I don't think Alex has ever been a guest on Apologia. Apologia's had some pretty big name people on there, but it's kind of cool to see, a really big channel be like, oh yeah, I watch that guy's stuff. He's really good. Now what comes with that though is this very strange and very specific fear that I have that one day, somebody will, like with Alex O'Connor or some other big channel or something, somebody will bring up, oh, have you ever heard of Planet Peterson? And then they'll go, oh yeah, not really a fan. And on that day, I will delete my channel and perhaps myself. This isn't really the same thing, but hilariously enough, our boy Jacob appeared on Dan McClellan's YouTube channel. Dan decided to react to him. I'm guessing Jacob's probably done 20 videos responding to Dan. He's done like 500 responding to me. But Dan actually decided to respond to one of them. Oh boy. So this is going to be me reacting to Dan reacting to Jacob reacting to a different Dan McClellan video. Before we do that, we're going to take a look at what they're discussing, which is essentially Genesis 2. Genesis 2 is really weird. The first 4 verses seem to be, if you read them, they read as if they are a wrap-up of Genesis 1. And it's like, well then why are those 4 verses just not at the end of Genesis 1? Because it talks about the creation week in there, and then just says, and thus all of God's work was done. This is the NIV. Whenever, I don't know, for whatever reason, for me, whenever I type in verses on Google and it takes me to Bible Gateway, it always defaults to NIV. I prefer the NSRV, not because I've read 10 different translations of the Bible and I made my own decision about which one's the most accurate, but because I took the scholarly opinion. I actually got it from Dan, and his message essentially on it was, look, if you want to understand each book of the Bible as close to the way it was meant to be written and interpreted and understood at the time it was written, then get this. I don't want to read a version of the Bible that is trying as hard as it can to harmonize the New Testament and the Old Testament. I want a version that is as faithful to the original authors and each original story. So in the NRSV, the beginning here of Genesis 2 actually goes to verse 4, and then they actually call it, the first verse here, they actually call it verse 4b. It's actually interesting as I was reading the annotations about this, and this is what it says. Although many scholars view this as the conclusion to the priestly creation account, it is probably a separate introduction to the following material, as elsewhere in Genesis, example 5:1, 6:9, and 10:1. So there we go. Now, that's not actually the subject of what we're taking a look at. It really just has to do with plants here. Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 do not work well together at all. The timelines are not harmonized at all. One says animals were created after man. The other has it flipped. One says, and this is what we're going to get to here, that there were no like Genesis 1 says plants were created on day 3 or 4, maybe 5, whichever it is, and then man was created. But Genesis 2 says there were, well, let's actually get to that. In the day that the Lord God made the earth and the heavens, when no plant of the field was yet in the earth, and no vegetation of the field had yet sprung up, for the Lord God had not caused it to rain upon the earth, and there was no one to till the ground, but a stream would rise from the earth and water the whole face of the ground. Then the Lord God formed man from the dust of the ground, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living being. Now, when it describes plants, it calls them plants of the field and vegetation of the field. So, what does this mean? Well, if we go back to the order of events that obviously don't match, what some apologists for the Bible, in order to create harmony, do is they say Genesis 1 is talking about the creation of the whole earth, whereas Genesis 2 is focusing just on creation in the garden. So Genesis 2 isn't really saying that God created man before the animals. He's saying that God introduced animals into the garden after man. But there were animals on the earth before God created Adam. It obviously doesn't say that, but that's the kind of thing you're forced to make yourself say in order to preserve the belief that they're both true and they both tell the exact same story. Now, in Genesis 2, plants are specifically called plants of the field and vegetation of the field. In Genesis 1, it's plainly said that God simply creates all of the vegetation that is on the earth on day 3. It doesn't really distinguish between one kind of plant and another kind of plant. It just says God created all of them. Without being able to speak Hebrew, without being able to look at ancient copies and see specifically how they write about this, I can't understand how somebody would read Genesis 2 and think that, is it talking about different kinds of plants? Cultivated plants? That's the issue at hand here. Don't let chat, what is it doing, happen to you. I've taken 100 of the most common anti-scientific arguments and put together the research, the logic, and the facts to take them all down. Every copy is personally signed and shipped by me. There are also way over 100 additional misconceptions in my second book, Facts That Aren't True. Or if you prefer, there are full audio versions of both books, including all of the pictures used in the books. If you're interested, click the link in the description. So now that we have a setup, let's take a listen.
Despite what a lot of apologists will tell you, there's just nothing remotely approximating.
Yeah, here's where he continues to lie to you.
All right, let's see it.
And Genesis 2 says plants of the field, which are cultivated plants. It's not even the same word in Genesis 1. It's a different type of plant. In Genesis 1, it's grass of the field, grass and vegetation, but these plants of the field in Genesis 2 are cultivated plants. That's why it said there was no man to till the ground.
I actually directly addressed this in that video. Here's what I had to say.
And I'm going to go...
Not to be like, well, Dan, you should have mentioned, but a little bit. But I mean, Genesis 1, it really clearly says, bring forth all the kinds of vegetation. Let the earth put forth vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees of every kind on earth that bear fruit with the seed in it. And it was so. The earth brought forth vegetation, plants yielding seed of every kind. I really don't see how you read Genesis 1 and don't think that that says every type of plant. So you can make the argument that Genesis 2 is talking about a specific kind of plant, but Genesis 1 already says that every kind of plant was already made. But that's actually not the direction that Dan goes in. The direction Dan is going in is the more correct one with respect to what Genesis 2 actually says. But there's actually an alternative argument you can make that blows up the case Jacob is trying to make. At least I feel.
Back to verse 5. No plant of the field was yet in the earth. The word there for plant is siach, which can mean a bush or a shrub, but is used to refer to wild vegetation. And no vegetation of the field had yet sprung up. This is asev, and that refers to grass or plants. This is usually cultivated vegetation. So what we've got going on here is an explanation that on the whole earth, there was neither wild nor cultivated vegetation. Why? Because there was no rain, which is how we get wild vegetation, and there was no human to work or till the earth, which is how we get cultivated vegetation.
So Genesis 2 is actually somewhat of a merism. It's describing vegetation that grows wild and vegetation that requires cultivation. And it says there was neither of either type on the entire earth. And that is widely agreed by the overwhelming majority of scholars to indicate there was no vegetation of any kind until after the human had been created.
So, yeah, here's the thing. According to what it says in English, which is what Jacob originally refers to, and then you're going to see he does some strong concordance type stuff later on. In English, the way it's put in there, it doesn't explicitly refer to every type of plant. But this is why you need to be somebody that actually can read and speak and understand the language it was originally written in.
So suggesting that it's all reducible down to one concept of only cultivated vegetation not only entirely gets the Hebrew wrong and entirely ignores half of the description of what's going on here in this verse, but it also ignores the part of the video where I quite explicitly and clearly drew that distinction.
So he doesn't even know the basic.
Jacob, the problem is, no, he does. Dan understands what you're saying. The problem here, very ironically, is that you only understand the basics because you can't read it in its original language. You can only go to the English translation of it.
He doesn't get it. He's not a scholar, folks.
Dan has like 5 degrees.
Read Genesis 2. Most scholars agree with him. Well, then most of these scholars are idiots.
Yeah, so the very famous "nuh-uh" argument. He's not even a scholar. But even if all of the real scholars agree with him, then they're idiots. Because what I did was I read a translation of the story thousands of years after it was first written down, translated from a language that I don't read, speak, or even understand.
Okay, that plant of the field is a cultivated plant. It's not the same Hebrew as Genesis 1.
So here's where this content creator demonstrates that they don't really know what they're talking about, because they put this image up on the screen. This is from Bible Hub. This is basically your Strong's breakdown of this verse, and there's a universal rule about arguing about the Bible on the internet, and it is that if someone appeals to Strong's, they don't have the first clue what they're talking about. And this content creator demonstrates this rule because they point to the...
Man, Dan, you have no idea. I wonder if Dan is going to start an arc with Jacob. That would actually be hilarious if this is not the first, or sorry, if this is not the last time. Oh man, that would be Dan, I push my burden onto you.
Second and third line down, plant of the field, and insist that is cultivated plants. And that is entirely false. The Hebrew word siach is the Hebrew in the second line down, Strong's number 7880. And all this content creator had to do was click on that number. But let's take a look at siach. It is a masculine noun. KJV renders bush, plant, or shrub. The NASB renders bushes or shrub. Strong's Exhaustive Concordance renders bush, plant, or shrub. And then we can go down to BDB, bush, shrub, plant. The topical lexicon goes into a bit more detail. Siach denotes low-lying desert vegetation, shrubs that survive in arid soil. Here's another indication that this content creator doesn't have the first clue what they're talking about. There is a word on this image that they shared that does mean cultivated plant, although more directly it means plant that is used for food. It's at the very bottom. Herb. Strong's number on the left is 6212. Asev. If this content creator had looked up that word by clicking on that number in Bible Hub, they would have brought up this lexical summary. Asev, grass, herb, vegetation. KJV renders grass or herb. Strong's Exhaustive Concordance renders grass or herb. Here's a more detailed entry in the BDB. Herb, herbage. The topical lexicon goes into more detail. The middle section is relevant here. Provision for humanity. Before sin entered the world, the Creator placed mankind in a garden already furnished with edible vegetation. Behold, I have given you every seed-bearing plant, Asev, on the face of all the earth.
Sorry, I had to let him go on for quite a bit there. But as I was watching this, I was kind of struck by, well, Dan, I mean, yes, the word plant there, we can look at what that the word siach there means in all of its different contexts, but there's a context modifier. Sure, a plant can refer to, that word can refer to a shrub or something that dries in arid conditions, a wild type of plant, but it calls it one of the field. But then that is essentially done away with. Well, no, of the field does not turn it into a kind of plant that is planted in fields, because if that's what they were trying to communicate, then they just would have used the word for herb down here. So for a little bit there, it was looking like, actually, but then there you go. Well, let's see what else Jacob has been up to.
I'm going to prove God exists to you in the next 30 seconds. We know that systems in nature don't increase in energy and decrease in entropy unless a living thing is involved.
When did he post this? He posted this on December 21st. Okay, well, I'm pretty sure I talked to him before this. Jacob, how do you keep making this argument? This is just 100% false. I usually give him weather examples because they're very simple. A tornado is a localized decrease of entropy. So is a hurricane. So is a cloud. Because of the energy from the sun, it adds energy to the earth, but it's still an open system. And overall, the overall system is increasing in entropy, but it can create localized order. Thermodynamics actually pretty much guarantees that will happen. It's been known for a very long time. And the interesting part about that, the interesting reason is that the formation of, and this happens in all kinds of aspects, like localized order, like the formation of crystals or whatever else, it actually, those organized structures, although they are local decreases in entropy, the structures actually serve to increase entropy into their environment more efficiently than the system does just by itself, or than the system would if it didn't create those structures. So not only is it not incompatible with increase in entropy, it's actually entropy's best friend.
Therefore, if the universe began to expand.
Oh, wait, yeah. And then what else did he say? Unless there's a mind behind it. Nope. Jacob, the sun, I'm going to start calling him a pagan when he brings this up. I'm going to accuse him of worshiping the sun because the sun does what he's saying can't be done unless there's a mind, which means Therefore, he worships the sun.
And decrease in entropy and builds complex systems like cats, dogs, birds, and trees, there has to be a living thing involved in that process based on what we know about physics.
This is an argument for aliens, not God. God's not alive. God's not a living being. And then when you ask them, what does that mean? Well, it means like spiritually God is alive or something.
So if the universe did expand into cats, dogs, birds, and trees, even more of a reason to believe that God exists. That's facts.
He did actually do that in under 30 seconds, at least from the time he stopped talking.
I have a question. So in 2026, your hot take is not only were your ancestors inanimate objects, but you believe that we got here when a ball of energy decided to expand and cool down into spider monkeys over billions.
I have to admit that his straw mans are really, really, really funny. But Jacob, we can straw man you too, right? No, what I actually believe is a magical man in the sky, a cosmic evil Santa, whispered sweet nothingness into the mud, and then it turned into Adam, and then a piece of his rib broke off, and then turned into Eve, who was obviously trans because Adam had Y chromosomes, meaning that they could not have sired any children. That's what I actually believe, or that's my version of what you believe. See, we can do this too, but I don't know. I think ours are better.
Years. That's where you're at? Okay.
Yep, that's where we're at, Jacob.
Well, hey man, you can't really have much of a standard for me because I just haven't evolved past the point where I can do anything different. Evolution is the problem. Some of us just ain't evolved right. You know what I mean? And hey, our ancestors, the pool of inanimate objects that we evolved from, they would be very proud of you right now because you have evolved to that point. Congratulations. It don't make no sense, man.
You all right, Jacob?
I can't get this thing not to create a monster. Like, genetic mutation, if you, like, this thing is ridiculous. There's no way, bro. Like, this is a genetic monster. It's just mutations, and it's just a sick animal. That's what it is. And I can't get it to build anything else but that. The coding isn't perfect yet, bro, but it just doesn't work, man.
I don't know what this is supposed to be.
I mean,
like a kid's game or something that you built or whatever. Doesn't model abiogenesis or evolution the way you want. Therefore, over the course of tens of millions of years, in a much larger working environment in space, it couldn't have happened. I don't know what's actually going on here.
so right now, for all you atheist evolution believers, this is the end of you. This is what's going to win me the Nobel Prize. Yep. I'm going to disprove evolution. I'm building a model that's going to absolutely show you how stupid. So it's not.
I mean, if you actually made that, that's cool. I don't know how to program or make anything.
I'm still working on the coding, but essentially, I'm going to be able to show you how stupid that this pseudo-scientific theory is as soon as I'm done with this. I got so many.
Jacob, I think you're just going to prove that you don't know how to accurately program whatever it is.
Different projects I'm trying to do right now, but this is one of my, like, this is coming together so nicely. Anyway, I'll keep y'all.
Okay, thanks, Jacob.
Hey, Catholics, please help me understand this. How is what you're doing not cannibalism? I mean, it checks all the boxes of cannibalism. You're eating flesh and drinking blood, and those are the only two boxes I know of that you got to check. So can you explain to me how you think Jesus came down here to tell us that we need to eat him? That's really your assessment of the ministry.
I don't know if you guys can read this, but this comment's actually really funny. The Eucharist is a mystery. Let's leave it at that. I assume this isn't a Catholic, and that's the best they can actually do at defending it. I mean, Jacob's 100% right. The only what they do to get out of this is they adopt this Aristotelian logic of whatever their essences and accidents one of them's called an accident. I can't remember what the other's called. But what they say is that the Eucharist, the bread and the wine take on all of the characteristics of flesh and blood while remaining like at the atomic level is what we'd have to go to now with what we understand today, without in its actual physical form changing at all. The most trust me bro thing ever. Like, it's just literally, yes, no, actually nothing about it has changed at all. But these qualities and characteristics that aren't distinguishable about it all turned into the characteristics of Jesus's flesh and blood. So it's identical to his flesh and blood, except that it isn't flesh or blood in any actual literal or physical sense. I mean, the Catholic Church's official position on it is that it is a mystery of faith. My Monsignor, growing up, he had this big, booming voice. And I remember very distinctly, right before communion started, he would always sing, "Let us proclaim this mystery of faith."
Planet Peterson loves to mute people that come on his live. So today I went on there, and that'll be the last time I make that mistake. Well, Jake, if your book is only 6,000 years old, how far in space should we be able to see? I think he thinks we can see into space.
Some of you have already seen this, but I had to play it again because it's just what could possibly make you say something like that? I think he thinks we can see into space. Guys, so I just clicked on this video from Jacob, and the date on it said January 1st. So, but look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 50, 51, 52, 53, 53, and then at the very top, you can't see them, but they're because it's cut off. But these are pinned videos. So you guys, 53 rows of videos since the beginning of the year. 53 times 4. So he's posted 212 videos just to TikTok just since January 1st. But like, what the fuck? Trying to find another video that he tagged me in, but he makes so many videos that it's almost impossible. Oh, there I am. This is an old video.
It's changed a little bit in the last 10 or 12 years. It used to be about 12 million. Now they think it's about...
You have to realize you're talking to Planet Peterson, someone who believes that his ancestors are inanimate objects. He believes that it's possible to form functional proteins in a prebiotic world that do the tango together and form complex life. I mean, so what in the world? This is science.
It's changed a little bit.
All right.
See, atheists like Dr. Blitz and Planet Peterson, they like to run around and avoid questions. Because if they were ever actually in a room with people that understood what they were talking about, these two individuals would be laughed out of the room.
What are you talking about? Blitz was like literally on assignment in Europe for a few years working on black hole research. He does work with people that know what they're talking about. Now, I just sit in my room all day, but
I would get both of them on a live together and destroy both of them on evolution, but they won't do it. They're scared.
Jacob, I talk to you every time that you come up.
They've both been in my live multiple times and got destroyed every time they were in the live. So you should ask Planet Peterson and Dr. Blitz, why y'all so scared, bro? Why y'all so scared?
Jacob, you have rage quitted every time we've ever had a debate, and it's always centered around you said something, and I prove to you that it's not what you mean or not what you think it means, or you're a hypocrite.
You can wait till I have more viewers so that you can't use the excuse that I'm just trying to get views from you. That's okay. We can wait. But when we do get there and you finally do get embarrassed maybe then you'll start to believe that Jesus is the Messiah that was on a
that'll never happen, Jacob. You're not that guy, buddy. You're not that guy. This video and all my videos is on my Patreon ad-free, and you can get a free copy of my first book by being a member too. Plus, your name will appear in the end credits. Thank you.